I have often heard the phrase, the reason for poverty around the world is because of the 1%, the rich. They take and exploit the poor. This was a common ideological viewpoint to answer the question of inequality in various human production within society. As I navigated my educational career, this was spit out by many students and many professors. This also aligned with the Marxist ideas of understanding human relationships and inequality within societies across time. The basic principle is that the rich exploit the poor, and as such, there becomes disparities between the two that last for generations. It is a compelling idea, and one within a psychological sense that comes from a place of resentment or hate rather than genuine inquiry into such disparities. I myself have even taken on this idea to explain the various inequalities around my life and the people around me. But the problem of inequality is much more intertwined with the nature of being rather than factors of human greed and the evils of exploitation. A principle I recently came across was the Pareto distribution, also known as the 80-20 principle in statistical terms. The Pareto distribution is a statistical distribution that describes a power law relationship between two variables. In the context of inequality, the Pareto distribution describes the distribution of wealth, income, or any other resources in society, where a small percentage of the population holds a large percentage of the resources, while the majority of the population holds a small percentage of the resources. For example, in the context of wealth, the Pareto principle states that 20% of the population holds 80% of the wealth. This shouldn't be a surprising statistic to everyone because we often talk about the greed of the 1%. This distribution is not unique to wealth. It can be observed in many other areas of life, such as the distribution of followers on social media, the number of citations received by scientists, number of books sold, the mass of stars in the universe, and even the size of meteorites. This distribution can also be found in various biological systems. One example is the distribution of species in ecosystems. It's been observed that a small number of species account for a large proportion of the biomass in an ecosystem. For example, in tropical rainforests, a small number of tree species may account for the majority of the biomass, while a large number of species have a relatively small biomass. Another example is the distribution of genes in populations. In some populations, a small number of genes account for a large percentage of the genetic variation, while a large number of genes have relatively small effects on a population. It can also be observed within the body mass among species, where a small number of species have very large body sizes, while a large number of species have relatively small body sizes. Within a human context, this distribution is present in all creative domains through the production of wealth, art, and even food. What we see is that there is a natural law that is applicable from the smallest species to the conceptualization of how the universe is designed. This principle also outlines the variety of inequalities that humans face, and most importantly, the disparities in wealth across populations around the world. It is interesting that not many individuals speak about this phenomenon regarding the concepts of social justice and the fight to support the oppressed. This concept is extremely important to understand for individuals who identify with Marxist or socialist ideologies. This law outlines that inequality is inevitable. No matter what the state of a country is, as long as there is an innate human imperative for competition, there will always be inequality, especially among the distribution of wealth. The solution to this phenomena that many social advocates have is as follows: the forceful distribution of wealth, a change in economic structure from a free market to a controlled exchange dictated by the government, or the persecution of the wealthiest people through moral judgment and social scrutiny. But this rarely works, and throughout history has led to the deaths of millions of individuals in the 21st century. This leads to a question that I have for you, the person watching. How do we keep wealth within a population so that it does not become tyrannical in its distribution without the use of totalitarian methods such as the events of socialist and Marxist regimes? Leave a comment below.